You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and today I'm joined by Brad Logan, and we're going to do a top 5 list. Today's list, top 5 running backs in Ole Miss history, according to Brad Logan. It should be pretty interesting. I did mine on Tuesday night. We did a little flip-a-roob. We're going to do Brad's tonight on Thursday. The way this is going to work is we're going to start from 5, work down to 1, and Brad's going to give me his list. We're going to take a break, and then we'll just come back and talk probably about running backs from Ole Miss's history as well. Should be a little bit of fun for everybody. Anyway, Brad, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really well. Like you, I'm excited about football season, and these, if anything, the polls and the list generate conversation and content, and I think it's fun to go back and look in the annals of history. No one enjoys a media guide any more than I do, and it's a fun topic, and I know you've seen a lot of conversation about the list that you've put out over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. What I wanted to do was just like when the doldrums of the summer hits, having something to talk about and do that. And I think those lists would be fantastic. I think Mount Rushmore's is how we discovered that a couple years ago when everybody was talking about the Mount Rushmore of Ole Miss football. And I was like, hey, we could extend this out a little bit. So today,
real quick, who is on your Mount Rushmore?
On my Mount Rushmore, well, obviously Archie Manning. He would be the primary. Eli would be on there. I think Deuce McAllister should be on there, and Patrick Willis.
Okay. I kind of lean that way. I've always said I would maybe take Patrick off and put Chucky Mullins just from a sentimental standpoint because of what he means to the program. Jake Gibbs, I'm high on Jake Gibbs winning the national championship. And then we'll talk a little bit about Charlie Flowers and Charlie Connolly. But anyway, the top 3 there, I don't think you can argue those.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. And we'll just lean right into it. And this is Brad's top 5 running back list. Number 5.
Okay. And you didn't tell me I could do this, but I'm going to do something without your permission.
Okay. That's fine.
I broke I had a difficult time with this. And the reason is because when we did our quarterbacks, I didn't have as much difficulty breaking the eras up. And so what I did is there are going to be a couple of running backs that are not going to make my list that easily could be 1 and 2. But what I did is I looked in more of a modern day, kind of when I was born, and kind of went forward. But I do want to do an honorable mention, and then we'll talk about that at the end. But number 5 for me, and this is a lot of a personal reason, is Dew Innocent. Dew Innocent is number 5 for me. Stephen, you remember 1994 or 1995?
95 Egg Bowl, right?
Yeah. And then also the 95 Alabama game. And it was – do you remember Fred Thomas played at Bruce?
Briefly. Ended up going to the Saints.
Yeah, that's it. Played at Northwest Community College under Bobby Ray Franklin, and then started out at UT Martin. Long story, started out at Valley. But anyway, he was a family friend of ours, and he played. So we went to a lot of away games that year. And I'll never forget, almost lost the game against Alabama, but a big strike of lightning came down, and Dew Innocent got a big first down. I remember that as a kid. But Dew Innocent had a really good career at Ole Miss. Finished number 5 all-time rushing at 4.70 yards a carry, 11 touchdowns, and had 2,300 rushing yards. So he had a really good career. And so for me, number 5 is Dew Innocent.
Yeah, and he didn't play much under Billy Brewer, but once Tommy Tuberville took over, he became the guy in the backfield and preceded John Avery, which might make an appearance on this list as well. Number 4.
Yes, and again, we're going to have to debate some of this. All right, number 4 for me should be John Avery. It's not. It's Randy Baldwin, and it's Randy Baldwin because he was on the 1989 Liberty Bowl game, to where that was the first bowl game I ever went to as a kid. My father took me, and it was one of those seminal moments of growing up as a kid. you felt like you were going to the national championship. And really, I mean, it was 30,000 people, and it was about 3 degrees. But, Randy Bolden had a good career, and, 88, 89. And then, looking at what he did under Coach Billy Brewer, I think more than anything is that year. It also played in 1990, had the year that they played Michigan in the bowl game Gator Bowl down in Florida, and got beat so bad. But Randy Bolden did exactly what he needed to, 5.9 yards a carry, 1,600 yards. But he was a great compliment to John Darnell. He was a great compliment to Willie Green and Pat Coleman, the 2 wide receivers. And he ran hard. Really didn't really jump off the page, but to me, Randy Bolden is one that is one of my favorite running backs to ever wear the Ole Miss red and blue.
Same here. Randy Baldwin is low-key one of my favorite Ole Miss players of all time, not just running backs. I had him at number 4 on my list as well. Number 3.
Number 3 is simply because of the numbers. He didn't play in a great era, so to speak. He played in the back half of the Houston Nutt era as Brandon Bolden. I think a lot of what Brandon Bolden did, he's done in the pros. I mean, he's had an incredible career. He's a backup running back. He's played at a couple of different teams. But he's number 4 in the history of rushing at Ole Miss. He had a really good career from 08 to 11. He played in those 2 years that Houston was at Ole Miss that everybody remembers. 08 and 09 had that 08 year that was so fun to watch. It was one of the most talented teams Ole Miss ever had. It was a holdover from the Ed Ogeron players, and Ed recruited him hard. And Ed recruited a lot of people, and a lot of that talent was held over. Also played in the latter half of the Houston Nutt regime, and just had a really good career. Finished up at 2,600 rushing yards, had a whopping 27 touchdowns, and he's only second to my number 1 on the list in touchdowns at 27 touchdowns and 2,600 yards. Great career for Brandon Bolden.
Yes, really good running back. I remember I went to the 08 Cotton Bowl, and him and Dexter were alternating in the Wild Rebel. And that was kind of my introduction, really, just like, oh, okay, I need to pay attention to this guy on down the line. So number 2.
Number 2 is Joe Gunn. And he is here, the pride out of Amory High School. And one of the most fun times of Ole Miss football is when Joe Gunn was playing during the Tommy Tuberville years. And, coming in the back half of that 98 game, played in the Motor City Bowl, and just had a really good career. Averaged 4.4 yards a carry, 2,700 yards, and 22 touchdowns. And just being able to see, I'm sorry, did not play in the Motor City. He was a year after that, but played in 98, which would have been the Independence Bowl in 99, and then 2000 Motor City Bowl. And so he did play a little bit with Eli, but more importantly, Joe Gunn was during the transition period between David Cutcliffe and Tommy Tuberville. So a really good running back, number 2 rushing all time at Ole Miss, and had to put someone from Amory High School. Had a great high school career, Stephen. If you remember, he played with Rufus French, Coach Bobby Hall, and they had an incredible team in high school. I think his senior year was 1997. So really good player. And number 2 on the list is Joe Gunn.
Number 1.
Number 1 is we've already talked about him being on the Mount Rushmore. He's someone that there was a joy to watch from 1997 to the year 2000 before he left for the NFL. Played for the Saints, and that's Deuce McAllister. Prepped at Morton High School in Mississippi. Was a highly decorated player. The only running back to rush for over 3,000 yards, and had 37 touchdowns. Deuce over the top. Is a great advocate for the university, and is someone that is incredibly nice with his time anytime he asks for it. And it's one of my favorite players ever to wear the Ole Miss red and blue. That's Deuce McAllister.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first and listen every day. When we come back, we will go over some of the running backs that were left off of Brad's list, maybe some running backs that made it onto my list. We'll talk about that. Buford McGee, Corey Philpott, those guys. But first, I do want to let you know, passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain it up, to level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all of that screaming and shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, right now. A free 24-hour streaming channel programmed for you each and every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you the big can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right, Brad's top 5 that he had. It was Deuce McAllister. Let's see, what was the 5 real quick? It was Deuce. It was Joe Gunn. It was
Brandon Bolden, Randy Baldwin, and Dew Innocent.
Yes, those were the 5. Okay, so there's some names that got left off of this list that probably deserve to be on somebody's list. And there's so many running backs over the history of Ole Miss football. You're going to have different looking lists. But John Avery, I think John Avery Fast is somebody that I had to do that 97 team. You know, that 97 backfield Ole Miss had 2 first-round running backs playing running back for Ole Miss in 97. John Avery is the fastest human being I've ever seen. And he was also on that 97-yard run against Arkansas for a touchdown. It was basically over the moment he got to the second level. What do you think about him?
One of the best I've ever seen. Also played with Coach Bobby Ray Franklin at Northwest Community College. And, Steve, we don't see very many JUCO running backs make it big in D1 football like we used to. But Northwest was a football factory back in the 1970s, and all the way it kind of died down a little bit into the 90s. But yeah, John Avery was a player that there was a lot of fun to watch. Played in that 97 Motor City Bowl in Detroit, and was a phenomenal football player. He's also part of that huge win over Georgia, if you remember, Stephen, to where Walker Jones did Walker get run down, or Walker ran
Walker
down?
Jones ran down Hines Ward. That's from that game.
Okay, I don't know.
Him and Brock Kreitz, I believe.
And forgive me if John was not a member of that team, but I was thinking he was a member of that team to beat Georgia.
Yes,
nonetheless, fantastic running back, and definitely one that has an opportunity to be on this list for sure.
Okay, and other names, Corey Philpott did not appear. Buford McGee did not make it. He was one of the he was the first running back essentially of my Ole Miss fandom. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, the law firm, did not make it on the list. The important thing is, what I'm saying is, there's a lot of really great running backs that Ole Miss has had over, especially the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a top 10 and we'd still have people that were left off the list. And here's the thing that surprised me about Buford McGee as I was doing the research last night. Buford McGee, and I say this, there's still a lot, but only 1,557 yards. And a lot of that could have been because of Steve Sloan's offense, that he implemented. I think he played under Sloan.
He did. Sloan and 1 year Brewer.
1 year Brewer, yeah. So, but yeah, he was an incredible talent, and definitely not on here. Another name that Ole Miss fans may not remember, that's Andre Thomas. Played from 79 to 82. He had 1,482 yards and had a really good career with 12 touchdowns and averaged over 4 yards a carry. But the two names that we haven't said that I think we have to at least talk about, and these are two
Obviously,
that would probably
Ed Thigpen, right?
Yes. No. But Ed Thigpen is the do you know where Ed Thigpen's from?
Where?
You pass it every time you go to New Orleans. It's in Mississippi. It's right on the Louisiana-Mississippi line.
Macomb?
Magnolia, Mississippi.
Oh, South Pike. He went to South Pike.
I don't know why I remember that, but I remember some of the craziest stuff. Can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. The two names that we did not talk about that I think deserve to be talked about is K.O. Dotley and Charlie Flowers. Charlie Flowers had a great career in the pros. So did John K.O. Dotley. K.O. Dotley is number 3 on the Ole Miss rushing list from 1947 to 1950 with the 2,650 yards, 21 touchdowns, and average over 5.5 yards a carry. So there are definitely people that are not on here that should be. Charlie Flowers averaged over 5.6 yards a carry, 13 touchdowns, and 1,730 yards. So 2 really good players and had great professional careers, and they are not on the list, but they definitely should be talked about.
Yeah, and I'll give a shout out to Steve Hyman as well. He went to high school with my dad, so I need to give him a little shout out as well. Newton High School. So anyway, thank you very much, Brad. And thanks everybody for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Brad Logan from Inside the Rebels, Logan Digital Media. He's basically all over North Mississippi. What do you got going on, bud?
Looking forward to I can't give very many details, but with our friends over at Max South Sports, we're going to be doing a couple of things during football season. We're going to be starting it in July, so there'll be more coming on the social channels with that and just gearing up for the season. We'll be going to all the games this year, so looking into what we're going to do at Wake Forest and then Arkansas, Florida, South Carolina, some really good road trips this year, so be on the lookout for some of that coming.
Hey, and whenever you go down to the Florida game, maybe we'll meet up.
Yeah, look forward to that.
All right, take care, and thank you very much, man.
All right, buddy.